Hmm.
Don't forget to turn on your microphone.
Let me pick something up.
Wow, it's really quiet. Okay. Um, if you'll, I now call this meeting of the Student Senate to order. If you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, October 24th, 2024 with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band, Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine will take it away with our first roll call.
Alvarez. Here. Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Bolton. Here. Brugan. Byers. Here. Casement.
Here.
Koch. Here. Ediger. Here. Erickson.
Here.
George. Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Hannah.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister. Islam. Jacobson Madeline. Here. Jacobson Michael.
Here.
Jonak. Here. Carton.
Here.
Keene.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilly.
Here.
McCulloch. Moltz.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Otto. Here. Peterson. Polanco.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg. Shahasavari.
Here.
Shirky.
Here.
Stewart. Uphouse.
Here.
Zacco.
Okay, and with that, we will go into first open period. So if you will close your computer lids.
I forgot to call mine. Kramer.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go into first open period if you'll close your computer lids. And today we have a Foreign Service Officer with the U.S. State Department. So if you'll please come forward.
Prefer that I speak at the microphone so folks can hear? Either way, let's do this. Hi, everybody. I am Victoria Nybarger. I am a Foreign Service Officer with the U.S. Department of State, otherwise known as an American diplomat. I'm also a K-Stater and an SGA alum. I spent many years, or many Thursday nights in the Big 12 room for Student Senate meetings during my time at K-State. And on a personal note, I met my husband in Student Senate. So I have SGA to thank for my family, I guess. As an American diplomat, I am normally representing the United States overseas. I'm usually assigned to various embassies and capitals. So what am I doing back here in Kansas? Well, I have the honor of serving as an Una Chapman Cox Fellow for this academic year. Una Chapman Cox was from a Texas farming and ranching family. She was an avid world traveler, and on one trip, she disembarked her cruise ship in India and failed to take her passport with her and was detained by the authorities there. So she needed help from an American Foreign Service officer. She never forgot that assistance, and she later started a foundation to benefit the Foreign Service. One of the things that they do every year is to provide a fellowship to 2 officers to reacquaint themselves with the United States after years overseas, and also to pursue a project that they're passionate about. So I have opted to connect with young people throughout the Midwest on democracy for my year. I'm working to promote civic engagement and to link American youth with peers overseas. One of the activities that I'm really excited about is coming up on election night here on campus on November 5th. This is modeled after something that we do all over the world on election night. Our embassy teams, led by our ambassadors, host government counterparts, civil society contacts, academics, youth, students. We bring them all together to celebrate the next chapter of America's democracy and our continued relationship with partners in that country. So we are going to gather from 7 to 9 in the ballroom here at the Union, and we are also going to celebrate American democracy. So there will be the opportunity to watch election results coming in. We'll have some special speakers, including one of your own, Andrew Lee. Yeah, Andrew. And we'll talk about ways that we can all contribute to making our democracy stronger. So there will be food and refreshments. I hope that you all will be able to join, and please invite those in your circles. So your roommates, your classmates, friends, please invite them all to join as well. As a Foreign Service Officer, I have spent 16 years overseas. I have served in Jamaica, Serbia, Ukraine, and Morocco, most recently. I think for me, one of the highlights of my career was my time in Ukraine. I was there from 2015 to 2017, and my job was to cover the conflict in the Donbass for the embassy. Specifically the humanitarian aspects of the conflict that had already begun then, right? So Russia's full-scale invasion occurred in February of 2022, but the fighting began years earlier in 2014. So I was reporting on the situation there and working with partners, both Ukrainians and other countries, international organizations, to support Ukrainian civilians and to mitigate the impact of the conflict on them. I think one of the highlights for me of that time was serving as the control officer for Senator John McCain, who traveled to Ukraine with 2 of his Senate colleagues, Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Lindsay Klobuchar. It was over New Year's Eve between 2016 and 2017, and they came to demonstrate strong U.S. bipartisan support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's aggression. Now, as control officer, I was in charge of the visit, and it was supposed to be 6 hours on the ground. It turned into a 3-day visit, including a trip with Ukrainian President Poroshenko to the front line of the war in the east via his helicopter. It became a little more complicated than expected, but thankfully everything went well. And there's a photo that was widely amplified throughout international media of the 3 senators standing with Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch, who headed our embassy, Ukrainian President Poroshenko, and dozens of Ukrainian soldiers in their camouflage just a couple miles from the front line where there was active fighting going on. It was really impactful. If you happen to be interested in the Foreign Service, maybe some in this room might be, I would love to chat with you and just give you my thoughts on the career, what it means both professionally and personally. I am on this journey with my family. My husband is also a Foreign Service officer now, and we have our 3 kids with us too, living throughout the world. So it's a great adventure. I love to chat. Alexa has my contact information if you'd like to be in touch, so please feel free to reach out. Other than that, I want to say thank you. K-State is a very special place, and it's like that because of students like you who dedicate your time and your talent and your energy. You could be lots of places on a Thursday night in Manhattan, homecoming weekend, right? So thank you for choosing to be here. I'm happy to take questions.
Are there any, colleague, are there any questions? Senator Shirky.
So here in the States and as students attending a university, there's a lot of things we hear about our nation and our public image and our values, especially around election year, where there's competitions as to what those values should be going forward. My question for you as someone with a perspective beyond just that within the continental borders, what does the world think when they hear the term American? What is the good and the bad that the values that we carry beyond the borders of our nation to the world?
That's a great question. I strongly believe in America's image and in our ability to look at ourselves, to recognize wrongs, and to course correct, right? So we are not perfect. No country is perfect. No government is perfect. No democracy is perfect. But as a democracy, we actually have peaceful options to channel change, right? And I think that makes us very, very strong and sets us apart from authoritarian regimes for sure. I would say that our ability to gather partners and create coalitions behind our ideas and shared values is incredibly strong right now. I've seen that working in the democracy space. So my last job was as our democracy policy lead for the department. And we have led an initiative called the Summit for Democracy, for example, which has now had 3 convenings and expanded from first a virtual gathering led by Washington to second an in-person gathering that occurred in Washington and 3 other countries, Costa Rica, South Korea, and the Netherlands, which demonstrates our ability to bring in partners throughout the world behind these shared ideals. And then the 3rd Summit for Democracy, which took place this past March, and that one was led by South Korea, so it was in Seoul, which is really encouraging.
Senator Hannah.
Yeah, so as working for the State Department, a lot of your job is to kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, go and kind of bridge the gap between cultures, various cultures across the world. What experiences have you kind of had with that, and can you speak to that maybe?
Sure, yeah, I've worked in some really different contexts, right? So the Caribbean, twice. I was first in Jamaica as a consular officer, so working on visa adjudication and then providing services to American citizens. I went back to Jamaica for a second tour, sort of unexpectedly, but that time I was in a regional capacity, working to coordinate our HIV assistance program, PEPFAR. I also then served in Serbia, so that's in the Western Balkans, right, Eastern Europe. I was in the economic section of the embassy there. I was in Kyiv, Ukraine as a political officer, like I mentioned. And then I was in Morocco, which is where I was working on global democracy policy. They've all been really different environments. And yes, culture plays a big part. But I think as a diplomat, for me, active listening and relationship building transcend cultural differences. So we have to go into any setting and try to build a relationship, a human connection with others, and that allows us then to work on policy together. So for me, that's been a big lesson and something that I think I saw firsthand here in Student Senate during my time at K-State. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Okay, with that, do we have any other first open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will go into approval of the minutes. The minutes were passed out yesterday. Agenda and legislation tracking information. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator Hannah.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Is there an objection? The minutes stand approved. Okay, moving to announcements. Number 1, we are accepting applications to be on the Tuition and Fee Strategy Committee, or TFSC. TFSC conducts college fee reviews on a 3-year cycle and reports to the university president and provost on their findings. This year, the rotation will include the College of Arts and Sciences and Business Administration. If you are interested in serving on the committee, fill out the application here. Those applications are due by midnight tonight, by midnight tonight at 11. Golly, those applications are due tonight by 11:59 p.m. There we go. 2, proxies. If you are going to be absent from a Student Senate meeting, please fill out this link, even if you aren't sure if your absence will be excused. 3, if you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would still like to attend via Zoom, please fill out the Student Senator Zoom request form. Speaker Quest will review requests based on the Student Senate attendance policy. Please submit requests here. 4, want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shout-out form, and Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will read them at the end of our meeting. Fill out your shout-outs here. 5, the SGA Members of the Week are our new Phase 2 mentees. Congratulations on making it to the second phase of the Emerging Leaders Program. We are glad to have you in this organization and can't wait to see what you do in the future. 6 is the upcoming events calendar, and the quote of the week is I never worry about action, but only about inaction, from Winston Churchill. Okay, moving to approval of appointments. We have Resolution 242546. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Resolution 46.
Second.
Is there an objection? The author will please come forward.
Hi everyone. Resolution 242546, approval of KSU SGA Phase 2 mentees. Authors Emily Haynes and Carly Saya, sponsors Joseph Lilly, Carson S. Cuesta. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA Emerging Leaders Program has completed Phase 1 for the fall 2024 term. Whereas 19 members of the Emerging Leaders Program have worked to educate, connect, and grow their knowledge of all three branches of student government at Kansas State. Whereas these 19 members have applied to move into Phase 2 of the KSU SGA Emerging Leaders Program. And whereas these 19 members have been selected to move into the Phase 2 of the KSU SGA Emerging Leaders Program. Be it resolved that, Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, approves the following individuals as Phase 2 mentees for the 2024 to 2025 term. Milena Carbajal, Lance Isley, Mauro Lara, Anna Halstead, McKenna Pelton, Blake Higginbotham, Emily Thadich, Griffin Foster, Kaisei Nagai Velasquez, Drew Mickey, Logan Brown, Jaden Weaver, Haley Biswell, Emily Freeman, Henry Bailey, Isabella Pond, Joshua Hicks, Molly Westbrook, Angelica Alvarado. Section 2. Upon passage by the Student Senate, the individuals listed above will be officially sworn in as Phase 2 mentees.
Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Shirkey.
I don't know what's going on with that version of the legislation, but on my agenda, line 20 should be struck because it's a blank space, and line 19 is also a blank space.
Okay, are there any?
So I also need to update it a little bit. I left a name out on accident and also spelled a name wrong. So I would like to propose a friendly amendment where those two things are corrected, if everyone's okay with that.
Second.
Thank you.
I think
Ryan?
the version online has that I'm showing right now.
Has the updated? Will you scroll down?
Pretty confident.
It's updated. Oh, great. Okay. Let me just read those amendments real fast. Milena is spelled Milena instead of Melina. And we've also added Emery Castens. Are there any questions?
Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Caucus Leader Black.
I move to approve resolution 46 unanimously.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, if the mentees will come forward to get sworn in.
I'll repeat it.
Okay, if you will please raise your right hand and say "I will" at the end. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Phase 2 Emerging Leaders and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association.
We're gonna go down the line and you're gonna say your name. We're not gonna do like the whole, should we? I don't know, guys. What yes. Okay, we'll do the whole thing. Name, major, hometown, favorite smell, what else? Pronouns, favorite smell. What else? Is that it? Okay.
Name, major,
Pronouns, hometown, favorite smell.
My name is Mauro Lara. I'm from Garden City. Kansas. My major is biomedical engineering. I would say he, him for pronouns. And my favorite smell? I don't know, the rain.
My name's Emily Freeman. I'm from Springdale, Arkansas. My pronouns are she, her. My major is political science, and I would say my favorite smell is probably vanilla or Sharpies.
My name's Emery Castens. I'm a sophomore in medical biochemistry. I'm from Anthony, Kansas. My favorite smell is gasoline.
My name's Blake Higginbotham. I'm studying electrical engineering, and I'm from Shawnee, Kansas. He, him, and my favorite smell is limoncello. It's a candle.
My name is Lance Isley. I'm from Olathe, Kansas. I'm a news and sports media and agribusiness double major. He, him are my pronouns, and favorite smell, freshly washed laundry.
All right, my name is Joshua Hicks. I am a sophomore in entrepreneurship. I am from Kansas City, Missouri. I know. Gotcha. Pronouns are he, him, and my favorite smell I'd say is caramel.
Hi, my name is Jaden Weaver. I'm a sophomore studying kinesiology and integrative phys double major. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. My pronouns are she, her, and my favorite smell is warm vanilla sugar from Bath & Body.
Hey, my name is Logan. What is my major? I'm an organizational management major. I am from Dodge City, Kansas. My pronouns are he, him, and I also like the smell of rain.
My name's Henry Bailey. My pronouns are he, him. I'm from Olathe, Kansas. My major is athletic training. And my favorite smell, my girlfriend's family actually owns a private business, which is candles. So my favorite smell is probably walking into their house because it's just like full of candle smells. It's like, it's the best.
Hi, my name is Haley. I'm an elementary education major. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from DeSoto, Kansas, and my favorite scent is lavender.
Hi, my name is Angelica Alvarado. I'm from Salina, Kansas. I'm a biology major. My pronouns are she, her, and my favorite scent would be vanilla or like anything with cinnamon.
Hi, my name is Isabella Pond. I am an integrative physiology and kinesiology major. I am from Junction City, Kansas. My pronouns are she, her, and my favorite scent has to be clean car and new car. Like right after it's freshly detailed, it smells so good.
Hi, my name is Griffin Foster. My pronouns are he, him. I'm from Orange County, California. My major is computer science and statistics and data science, and my favorite smell is pine.
Yeah.
So turn and face that way.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna do a mentor reveal. If your mentor is not here today, you should have gotten a little card from us. But yeah, keep your eyes forward, close your eyes, no cheating.
Where are they coming?
drum roll. Okay, turn around.
I also know Chase personally, so.
Okay, everyone, if you want to start finding your seats so we can get back to it.
Wait, emerging leaders, don't leave. We're going to take a photo. Okay, we're going to do a photo with Carly and I, and then we're going to do a second photo with the mentors. Okay, thanks. Can we do like rows? Okay, you guys ready? I was going to say,
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, mentors. If we can get a picture, stand with your He's over there talking.
I'm gesturing wildly at my Wait, are y'all finished? Alright, look at me, look at me. Awesome.
I don't
Nice to meet you.
Carson, what about
Okay, so moving on from approval of appointments, we will now go into committee reports. Do any committee chairs have a report? Do any committee chairs have a report? Yeah, Chair Lilly.
All right, to lighten the mood, we are starting expulsions for absences. So if you have more than 3 unexcused absences from either Senate or your committee, or 6 excused absences from Senate or more, you're gonna get an email and you have to go to ops. It's in the bylaws, it's not my choice. It's been selectively enforced in the past, but it won't be this semester. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal unless you've missed like everything, because statistics, most of you probably don't have an issue with that, seeing as you're here. So that is starting here pretty soon. Engineering should be full next week, probably. Arts and Sciences is full now. That happened last week. Is Ag full? No, Ag's not full. We're missing one in Ag. If you know anyone in Ag that wants to be in Senate, have them shoot me an email. I think that's it.
Are there any questions? Senator Griffith.
Isn't it true that we just now got a bunch of new people who are now eligible to be senators through swearing in not even 5 minutes ago?
Yes, that is the case. So they can select interim senators out of the Phase 2 mentees, and I plan on talking to them about that. I still would like the seats filled with senators instead of interim senators. As cool as I'm sure the mentees are, that's the whole point of it, is that they're interim senators.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report? Okay, seeing none, are there any directors that would like to give a report? Parliamentarian blood.
I didn't get to give this update last week because I was out of town, but just wanted to let everyone know, for those who don't know, that the governing documents, so the Constitution, the bylaws, and the statutes are now uploaded to Org Central, which is our main page and repository for everything, with the current updated governing documents as of everything that was passed through the end of last term. So if there were any contracts or governing doc changes that were made, since this body has been sworn in, those have not been added and updated, but all of the other past legislation has. I also just wanted to give a little tip. I know the governing documents can be pretty long and lengthy, and something I found recently that's been really helpful when I'm trying to give advice or slight quick interpretations on either Robert's rules or the governing documents to different people, as is my job as parliamentarian, is to use this website called notebooklm.google.com. It is basically a ChatGPT, but for your own documents. And so it will summarize our governing documents based on questions you ask it, and also point directly and reference directly the parts in the governing documents that it's giving the answers for. It's not 100% perfect, just like ChatGPT is not 100% perfect, but it can be a little bit more efficient than, say, utilizing all of our, having to scroll or even use Command F to find something, because wording can be a little difficult at times. So definitely recommend trying it out. All you have to do is upload the PDF. So it's also a great study tool potentially if you've got PDF notes that you can upload and kind of ask it questions. But definitely recommend checking it out and using that if you have questions on the governing docs before having to ask a bunch of people and wait time.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to report? Okay, seeing none, we will go into college caucus time, and Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine, if you wanted to explain a little.
All right, so the main reason that we're doing this right now is that the College of Engineering does not have a caucus leader, and neither does the College of Health and Human Sciences. I did want to offer up the reality that if your college has a caucus leader that is not ever present, you do have the ability to elect a new caucus leader, so just keep that in mind. So we'll go into caucus time, and if that is your reality, you can go ahead and do that. And for the two colleges, engineering and health and human sciences, you guys just need to elect one in general. For the rest of you guys, I would just meet with your caucus leaders, see if they have any updates, and if you need anything, I'm right here.
And we'll take everybody be back here at 7:55.
I'll ask it.
Yep. Okay, you're dismissed.
I have three. I was going to take one. I was going to take my marketing on only reserves using it. I'm like, and I was going to do I'm not doing it for the class I'm supposed to be on the business. So it's gonna be a nice weather. I would say.
Yes, I like blue.
I'm chilling. Oh no.
Bingo.
There's?
There it is.
I lost my marbles last week. I lost a Sims 2 shading last week.
What? Oh.
Kind of had it since May. So
No, I need to take QR codes out of this and send it to some of the people because they may be interested. So.
What if you kind of looks like voices. And so that was a little like, gosh, I was like, okay.
Is there any caucus time?
No, one's just being formal.
Well, what if they're literally not here? We just don't have one?
Fantasy. I'm That's disgusting.
We're gonna expel it.
Oh yeah, there's someone over there.
Well, there's no one here.
No.
Now that I do just
That
pick people
is,
off. It's that or I say Benzine.
Oh yeah, is anyone?
Which boy can actually say that? I think it was class. I was like,
Yeah. I just.
So we need time.
We're in. We're going to education.
California.
I'm just here at this point.
I just need to know meeting wise and like the weekend advance. So I can say,
I wanted to introduce myself.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I know.
Oh, you're good. You're busy.
Always incredibly busy.
Oh, that's good.
Not like Brandon. Yeah, the purple people leaders. I'm from Kansas City.
I think we're good. How are you?
This is my
Oh, you have to recruit.
Sorry to hear that.
There's a lot going around right now.
Where's my phone number? Let's grab coffee sometime next week. All right. Yeah.
I went to the one yesterday.
There's a bunch of people online, but our caucus leaders.
Okay, I sounded scared.
Honey, I kind of feel like those y'all
I really just don't have time to.
No, as soon as I went, oh yeah, just like minutes.
Like the main thing is like fill vacancies and other vendors. But like technically we're supposed to like meet with the There's also like, we're one of the more active college councils in GSU. Like, they get money and signage from stuff.
that gives me
So,
that time.
grad school is obviously a little bit more. So there, and like, they don't really understand the college caucus. Which like, and like, we're also, we do have our own event.
I think they already average education. I'm on one of the committees. I'm on the.
That's good.
When does regular GSC meet?
I say that. They told us, they stopped, they started with the easiest.
Because no one showed up.
So they meet with the dean, but you know, I don't even think the whole cabinet meets, I think only the president, meets.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
My career planning seminar. It's like pro
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these like historic, I mean.
It's my lowest grade.
Do you have
like
in general?
It is my lowest.
What's your lowest grade?
Legislatures do not.
89, but
51. Like, by definition, they should. Obviously, you and I.
Even with the.
I never.
Recently, I've done better actually just not going to homework by myself.
Yeah, certain things.
You and I go to
There's a lot of
ethics.
undergraduates.
Me ethics last
students
year.
giving GSC money because they're like, why do we allocate this money? Okay, that class is good graduate students, but it's mainly expensive. Undergraduates, graduates, kids are like, oh,
Just Andy.
like even if you talk about this research,
It's like right now they're trying to.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
They have to make it an issue. It's just a possible issue.
like anyone will also like your I would just like your undergrad education with you know the members of the class
The one that
teach guys
narrows down the topic. I mean, no, they've all.
engineering student council is more active. Like all these department councils, a lot of them are basically like they're formed by the president of the student board. So kind of like all of this stuff emanated from like high school student council type stuff. Student club presidents ran the school because that's your student involvement. Like it makes sense to an extent, but you know you run into the issue of now SGA is very removed from. There you go. Are you a Vikings fan too? That's why he's running for. My two favorite teams are Packers and whoever's playing.
Now, I am,
and also getting.
you know, I don't mind Vikings.
So
They
what do
just
you
never
think
made
the
us
specific
very good historically.
No. Great answer. Great answer.
They've never been able to win the big game.
They've always been mixed and never good.
Decreasing the size of it.
So,
We're decreasing that one.
it could be.
But
It had some K-State expected.
Plus,
like, and so it's like there's this provision in our constitution that gives student board presidents speaking rights.
Yes.
You know,
and
and
working for facilities.
the hard part is it's impossible to take away, but it kind of dilutes
Well, right, you transfer.
getting elected as senator. All you gotta do is find 5 people, and now you can speak whenever you want, right? Like, so like there's a bill in introduction as a former member yesterday emailed me today. How do you feel about giving student board presidents more speaking rights and more power than, in theory, more speaking privileges in student senate than any other student on campus, even though they're not elected in any way, shape, or form to student government, right? I have an amendment.
How much do you cry?
Has Carson been on a committee yet, by the way? Carson, put him on. You want to be on ops, right? Put him on ops. What's he on? 5:30 on Tuesday.
And then.
This is why I'm not an art major. Or math major.
Based on whatever, those are the current meetings, the typical meetings.
Yeah, I'll talk.
We're not elected, we're not affiliated. But there's a whole, everybody's free.
Crazy. According to the schedule, it hasn't been announced yet, has it?
It's on the agenda.
It's Halloween.
There's no,
You know, the last time I celebrated Halloween.
Yeah, it was on the schedule, but they kind of thought.
Some kind of concert or something?
You there?
Don't fall down.
And like literally a few years ago, like somebody, I was like,
I don't know. So I don't celebrate Halloween.
yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
It's not usually my thing.
I was trying to be
education.
See if you do something about like
Really?
You were I did talk to the dean about it, and I was talking about maybe pushing it for and she pushed back on that, saying that he thought that you get a little more space for you to stand up.
Just like there was that
I think there's like to me that makes it feel good at the push back.
You just like were saying that too. On top of each other. It's like when you're that many people. But there's these really big hills. Yeah.
That's kind of what ESOP's for.
That's scary.
That's so true.
Yeah, I mean, we like to came out of the subway.
I think he thought that what would he now find? And I guess he just wants.
I'm curious to see.
We find out like someone said some jerky. Luckily, no, I turned around, got back in the subway. I mean, I love having
No, but
sorry.
no.
Yeah, Halloween, and this especially was the main couple days, it's how it's already
It's a festival.
Well, so the area we go to, right next to where the old US military is. That's now where the president lives. Because he didn't want to live in their former White House because his monk told him it had bad juju. So there's a ton of cops monitoring now. Or the president.
If there's anything else, I think there's like.
Yeah, it's like I see him, but I don't know him.
Because people go there and Halloween is like the American store. They know Halloween's a big thing there. Anyone who goes out there.
I saw him.
You probably had 2-3 million people in 4 blocks.
But if he's architecture, if he's
Metro area
architecture, he's 30 now, so he's gone. For next year. Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm feeling. Yeah. Did you do it?
I think our cause.
No. You'll feel spacious.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I know other colleges have bring speakers.
I know, like, kind of feels like a lot weird.
Yeah, weird neighborhood.
So you're on campus. Yeah, weird neighborhoods before I don't think you get out of town. I don't think it's good.
I never been there.
I was 20, 30 years old.
So high rises.
My building that was there, much less the apartment building.
I do love dark chocolate.
If you do, I would. You can see that now.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah, that wouldn't be college.
I think kind of it's college high school.
It's huge. When you are kind of that way, right? You gotta visit things that are like hacked. You're not going to hire before you really get to it.
Hey, you would notice that.
That's what
We don't like to trade it around.
Yeah, I mean, you get Washington, a mile and a half, 2 miles.
I feel like that way it would be a little bit more close. And like,
I mean, it's, they're taller.
Just stay away from
You have to wait and have to like.
I
Like on my because this counts media. So it's like him and all. Yeah, you got like one of them.
How long until we come back?
I was going through the Now I can just sprain.
You wanna watch the video?
Like Grace.
I think me putting up on this channel will help him because now I will keep her eyes there.
According to what's on it.
But if we have that confidence monitor.
I would love that.
You're like, when the chief players are that means plenty of people here who would watch that. There's one person who has watched this stream, and he's not even gonna be able to see it. So
He'll just watch this go.
yeah. You can't like on a computer, like they're not in perfect sync. You're gonna be
Got it.
Yeah, look at that. I'm official. Woohoo! I didn't know they made it. I didn't know I was I was begging for it yesterday. I'm like, who's this? This is the part that I texted
All of it minus the newest portion. Well, also,
I was so thinking he's awesome.
But so we don't
Not like you cover all the kids.
There's 75. No, but they like. I do. I'll be
Oh, I guess, yeah. I didn't realize it was approximately.
It's like if we don't.
Okay, with college caucus time being expired, we'll now go into the approval of the allocations. We have for Bill 24, 25, 27, FY25 allocation to the Architectural Engineering Institute. They requested $750 and were recommended $750. Then we have Bill 24, 25, 28, FY allocation to the American Nuclear Society. They requested $1,500 and were recommended $1,500. Then we have Bill 24, 25, 29, FY25 allocation to the Blue Key Honor Society. They requested $2,726.75 and were recommended $1,680. And then we have Bill 30, FY25 allocation to the National Society of Black Engineers. They requested $1,500 and were recommended $1,500. Is there a motion to approve the allocations? Chair Strunk.
I move to approve the allocations.
Second.
Is there an objection? The allocations will stand approved. And with that, we will go into final action on Resolution 42, the recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, which was referred back favorably unanimously from DEIB. If the author will please come forward.
I'm like really short. Also, excuse me for my voice. I don't know what happened, but I woke up today and I was like, I can't talk. Great, on a Senate night. Perfect, fantastic. Am I good to debate?
Yeah, were there any changes in committee?
No.
Okay, your first right.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this a little more today because, as you've noticed, I've got a trend of recognizing some national holidays for people, especially certain underrepresented groups on campus. I just want to talk about the importance of these resolutions, not just for like recognizing those specific groups, but also encouraging that we all participate and continue to make it like a comfortable place for people who don't have that community or that sense of community here on campus as well. As the vice chair of DIB, I know if you've got some questions, you can talk to Andrew as well, the chair. We have some initiatives ready for you. We want to try to make this a more welcoming space for people, and it starts with resolutions like these, and it starts with action taken by SGA to start encouraging campus to go to these events and to participate and to encourage for our voices to be heard and our stories to be told. That's all I got for you today. Thank you.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? And is there any debate at all? Okay, with that, we will go into a hand vote on Resolution 42. If you are in favor of passing Resolution 42, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, and you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. Okay, and any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, Resolution 42 will pass. Moving on to Resolution 43, resolution to support improved access to printing at Kansas State University, referred favorably from SAC unanimously. If the author will please come forward. Were there any changes in committee?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there were. You will look at the resolved section and you will see that in its original form there were 5 sections. That has been reduced to 4. What is absent here is a specific sort of policy guidance, because the actual policy guidance will be done in future meetings with the provost and with the deans of the various colleges. If you want to get in on those meetings, DM me. That's where the real work is going to get done.
Okay, you have first rights to debate.
We can't win the war against the incredibly expensive cost of an education today, but we can win smaller battles. And we can win those battles by providing financial support to students of all the colleges and making sure that what they see on cases at the beginning of the year is the only cost they pay, that they're not surprised by printing costs that are, of course, required for them to complete programs in their education. For that reason, I believe you should support this legislation. It is essentially going to make printing free at point of use for all students. And as was actually brought up when this bill was introduced and during the questioning period, the work to make sure that that policy can be done in a fiscally responsible way, in a way that won't ruin printing demand, is being conducted right now through meetings with the provost, with faculty senate, and with the deans. This resolution would show that you support the student body having access to additional resources that they need to pursue their education. And that's really all there is to it.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on Resolution 43, is there any debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Is there any further debate at all? Okay, seeing none, we will go into a hand vote on Resolution 43, the resolution to support improved access to printing at Kansas State University. If you are in favor of passing the resolution, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, and you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. Okay. And you can lower them. And then are there any abstentions? Okay. You can lower them. With that, Resolution 43 will pass. With that, we will go into Resolution 44, the resolution to support the Open Textbook Initiative. The author will please come forward.
Waiting for a question from you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Were there any changes in committee?
No, there were not.
You have first rights to debate.
Same idea as the last resolution, right? This is a message from the student body that says that we want to address the kind of hidden costs to a student's education that they don't see immediately when they enroll at the beginning of the semester. And we want to make those hidden costs as low as possible. Open Alternative Textbook Initiative is a way that does that. It's basically cheaper if the university buys a textbook than if we all buy it ourselves. So it's the fiscally prudent thing to do, and it also helps your voters. So you should support it.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, on Resolution 44, is there any debate in the negative? Okay, seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? And is there any further debate at all? Okay, with that, we'll go into a hand vote on Resolution 44, the resolution to support the Open Access Textbook Initiative. If you're in favor of Resolution 44, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised too. Okay, you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. Okay, and any abstentions? Okay. With that, Resolution 44 will pass. We will now go into final action on Resolution 45, which was referred favorably from SOC unanimously. The recommendation to parking services to establish the donations for citations program. The author will please come forward. Were any changes made?
Is it what?
Were any changes made?
No.
Okay, you have first rights to debate.
Well, going off of, I guess, what we talked about last week, again, this has been a months-long journey of where we've gotten to now and being able to collaborate with Parking Services, CATS Cupboard, and the folks in the executive branch, as well as some of you folks here. I think we're making great strides on getting this accomplished and getting this implemented by January 21 of 2025. So I'm excited to see where this goes and to see how this will actually benefit and make an impact in students' lives. But yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on Resolution 45, is there any debate in the negative?
I have an amendment.
Okay. Have you emailed it to Brian?
I have.
If you will come forward and read it.
Do I actually have to read it, or can I just summarize it? Okay. This literally just expands it to include faculty and staff. That's all it does. This is at the request of the Parking Services Director.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yeah, does this specify just faculty and staff, and I guess, or does it open it up to anybody in their work?
Students, faculty, and staff.
Are there any further questions? Senator Alvarez.
Does this include union staff, or is this just a K-State? Because I know those are two separate entities.
I wrote it as Kansas State University students, faculty, and staff, so whatever that definition includes in the eyes of probably Parking Services.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a second to considering the amendment?
Second.
Okay. It is considered. Okay, with that, we will go into debate if there's any on the amendment. And the maker of the amendment has first rights to debate.
I'd like to give my first rights to debate to Chair Lee.
Well, it's an honor to sit in front of you guys once again. Again, by adding students, faculty, and staff, again, just makes this program more expansive and allows us to serve all of the university and make sure that everyone's kind of included in this. So I mean, I don't see why not. We should add this, but open to hear what you guys have to think.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on the amendment, is there any debate in the negative? Okay, seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? And is there any further debate at all? Okay, seeing none, we will go into a hand vote on the amendment and whether or not we would like to add the amendment to the resolution. So if you are in favor of this amendment, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised too. Okay, you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Okay, you can lower them. With that, the amendment will pass and be added to Resolution 45. And so we will now go into debate on Resolution 45. Is there any debate in the negative, Senator Griffith?
Hello, so I am opposed to this resolution because I do not believe that this is going to be effective, and actually I believe that this is going to see a negative impact on K-State parking and on university as a whole. I see if this process goes through, we're going to see 3 camps of students in general. We're going to see the first camp is the normal students, those who don't have parking violations, of which Cats Covered is clearly going to receive no gain. But this isn't about that camp. The first and most important camp is about the low-income students, those who are not well off, who, rather than paying the parking ticket, which already, Eddie, there is much debate whether or not citations are too high on this campus, but specifically about this process, that these more low-income students are oftentimes going to be would have to purchase groceries, canned food donations to give to Cats Covered, of which later in that week they might very well go to Cats Covered to receive. And during the questioning phase, I brought this up to the author, and he said that they would most likely figure out a form of volunteer work to help pay off their citation. For a small dollar citation, Asian work, uncompensated work, there's already a word for that, community service. An actual government organization would take hundreds to thousands of dollars in parking violations before even coming anywhere close to that. And whereas this would do it for even a single violation. But the third and the largest camp, and I think the one that's going to have the clearest negative impact, are more well-off students. I myself count myself in that camp. I know that if I got a parking violation and I called my mother and asked, "Hey mom, can I have money because I got a parking ticket?" she would tell me, "No, absolutely not," as a reasonable parent should. But if I got a parking violation and I knew this process existed, I could call up my mother and say, "Hey, I need about $40 for groceries." What self-respecting parent isn't going to say, "Yeah, sure, honey, I'll give you money for groceries." Then I go, I buy groceries, I give it to Cats Covered, and I get out of the ticket without paying anything. That doesn't serve as deterrent. If these students know that this process exists, they're just going to be able to run off, buy food, drop it off. All in all, I do not believe that this is going to benefit students. I do believe that this is going to increase the amount of parking citations we see and damage the reputation of an organization whose reputation is already damaged. I may be the lone negative voice in this assembly, but I would urge you to vote in the negative, as I will be.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there any debate in the positive? Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, some of the concerns that the previous speaker brought up are actually valid. There are certain limitations to this bill. I'm not going to necessarily talk about all of them, but I'm going to say that in all actuality, what this bill is doing is it is providing an alternative means of payment for parking tickets in a way that's overall going to cost students less and be contributing to a good cause. If you get a parking ticket right now, it's you just have to pay it, or if you can hopefully get it appealed. But in this, it provides a scenario when you would pay for said parking ticket, and the payment would go towards solving food insecurity, which is a huge issue on campus. Cats Covered has came and talked here multiple times about how 40% of students will struggle with food insecurity at some point in their K-State careers. And I think that this is a good way of providing more food there, and that could be used positively. I know that there is a concern that this will increase bad parking, and that's just going to be part of this bill. But the other thing it does besides working towards food insecurity is it provides other methods of paying off parking tickets. And I think, so what if there are more parking citations around campus? That just means more donations to Cat's Cupboard.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Okay. Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Senator Glanville.
As many of you know, if you've come into the parking office, I am one of these smiling faces that gets to greet you when you come in with a ticket. Having this bill passed, I cannot count on my hands and toes the amount of times people have come in and tried to rip me a new one because they received their first parking citation and they did not know what these rules were and did not want to pay it and thought it was a waste of their time to try and appeal it. Having a system like this, honestly, would be able to reduce that for those student workers who get to greet everybody's smiling faces when they come in with their first citation. Honestly, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. More people are happy because they just get to donate food instead of pay for a parking citation. Hopefully when they come in for that, we can educate them a little bit about how to not receive a citation in the future. And honestly, it reduces the amount of mad people at your student workers who are, again, your fellow students. Thank you.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Okay, seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Chair Lee.
Awesome. I appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments tonight. You guys bring a lot of good insight when it comes to, building good legislation. Right? There's no perfect world that we live in. But just to address some of the concerns that were kind of raised tonight. One of the previous speakers mentioned, low-income students. Again, yes, this is something that we're having discussions about. What is the best way to approach this? But at the end of the day, I think you also have to realize any student who receives a $55 ticket would rather donate $5 worth of canned goods or hygienic products than pay the $55 ticket. And so to me, there's less of an impact on that student's wallet. Am I wrong? At the end of the day, this isn't harming low-income students. It's providing them an alternative means for them to be able to pay off their parking citation, even at a lower rate. They're not paying a $17 citation with $17 donations. They're paying a $17 donations, $17 tickets with maybe a $3 to $5 pack of canned green beans or something like that. And so, again, that to me just seems kind of unrealistic here, in that we're kind of picking at straws. When we talk about the high income aspect of it, something that me and Shelly Williams talked about, Shelly, who's the director of parking service of Cat's Cupboard, is that this is a great restorative way in addressing remittance for parking citations. Right? We live in a world where we used to live in a world where things like this were deterred by very punitive punishments. And over time, as we learned, those things aren't as beneficial to students and young folks. I mean, you see that in your high school, you see that now in education. If any of you guys have ever been in a restorative circle, I've been in many of those restorative circles, and trying to address, disciplinary behavior. And so instead of forcing students to pay the parking citation, this allows them, again, an alternative means to be able to get that waived, but also as a learning experience, as talking with someone like Sophia in the parking services office to learn about, I made a mistake, I messed up, but, what can I do differently, right? And so this gives people a second chance. And again, it helps those first-time offenders. Again, at the end of the day, I think this, we're looking at specific scenarios here. We also have to look at the general welfare, right? This is going to promote good for all students, right? There are going to be bad actors here and there, There are bad actors in our federal government. There are bad actors that exploit our federal programs. There are bad actors everywhere, right? That's just the world that we live in. But at the end of the day, a majority of students are going to benefit from this regardless. So, yeah, that's all I got to say. Appreciate it.
Seeing that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Okay, seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Senator Erickson.
Hi guys, so I come to you guys with kind of a unique perspective. When I was an undergrad at Fort Hays State, I served on the SGA there. This is something that we tried to pass last year, and the administration would not get on board. And we were struggling every year with our food pantry. It was always low. We got a grant from like Senator Moran for $7,000 one year. It was the only way we were able to keep it above like just drowning the shelves being empty. And so you guys have a really unique like stance here to be able to make some change, because we tried so hard last year and our university just administration would not get on board, and there was people begging for this. So yeah, you hear the things about the negative, but overall picture, you're going to help people, you're going to make an impact. So just remember that.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there debate? Senator Shirkey.
I move for the previous question.
Second.
Okay. Seeing as that has been moved and seconded, we'll take a vote on whether or not to move to previous question. If you're in favor of moving to previous question and voting on the resolution, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, and you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. Okay, and are there any abstentions? Okay, with that, we'll move into previous question on Resolution 45 and take a hand vote on Resolution 45. If you are in favor of passing Resolution 45, the recommendation to Parking Services to establish a Donations for Citations program, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, you can lower them. All opposed, same sign. Okay, you can lower them. And any abstentions? Okay, Resolution 45 will pass. With that, we will move into introduction of the allocations.
I'd like to move Bill 31 into final action.
Second.
Okay. Chair Strunk is the Student Allocations Committee Chair, and that position has the authority to move bills from introduction of allocation and approval of allocation into final action, so we can vote on them immediately. So, yeah, if you'll come forward and your first rights to debate.
I have a correction to the thing before we debate it. I wrote the numbers and then forgot to add myself as an author. Can you put me after Gavin's run? My bad.
Point of information.
Yes.
Wouldn't this be introduction of legislation, putting it into introduction of legislation, not final action?
No, it's moving into final action.
But it's currently an introduction of allocations.
Correct, but the chair of the Student Allocations Committee has the prerogative to move it from introduction or consideration to final action. Very true. Okay. 1 second, Gavin. Does somebody have a motion to consider Bill 31? Senator Shirkey.
To consider Bill 31.
Second.
Do you have any corrections or questions?
Yes. Please add me as an author after Gavin's run because I forgot to type that in online.
Excellent. Do you have something to say, Chair Strunk, about moving it to final action?
About moving it into final action?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My main point of coming up here is, I guess we're not having Senate next week, and this event is happening on the 12th of November, so by the time we would get around to getting it into actually being allocated, that's pretty close to the event, so I'd like to get them their funding. We funded the same event for a different organization, and they're taking 5 people. We gave them the maximum that we were allowed, $750. So I think it's pretty unanimous in the committee. So I think we should just pass it now, so that way we don't have to, wait for reference and then final action. So.
Excellent. Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on Bill 31, is there any debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? And is there any further debate at all? Chair Hannah, or Senator Hannah.
I moved to previous question.
It's not in order, yeah. But since there are no further speeches or debate, we will just go into a roll call vote on, yes, Senator Griffith.
I move to suspend the rules and approve Bill 31 unanimously.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, then Bill 31 will be approved unanimously. We will now go into introduction of the legislation. The first is Bill 242532, amendments to the KSUSJ statutes regarding unusual motions. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Bill 32.
Is there an objection? Okay, if the author will please come forward.
Bill 242532, amendments to the KCUSJ standing rules regarding unusual motions. Authors Vivian Griffith, sponsors. Whereas, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should continue to review its internal practices. Whereas, student senators should strive to be advocates for their beliefs and those of their constituents. Whereas, student senators should make relevant motions that support these beliefs. Whereas, the purpose of these motions may not be immediately obvious. Whereas, suspending the rules to allow for debate on a motion requires a 2/3 majority vote and extends the time of a student senate meeting by a considerable amount. Whereas, should the author of a motion be allowed to present their motion and explain its purpose before the student senate, the motion might be carried out. And whereas, allowing for discussion on unusual motions will ensure that student senate shall make informed decisions. Be it enacted that Section 1, Chapter 2 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association statute shall be amended to read as follows. 02-0209, unusual motions. A, when a senator makes a motion and the purpose of this motion is not immediately clear, the Speaker of the Student Senate or 15 student senators selected and qualified may call for an unusual motions presentation. When an unusual motion presentation is called for, the author of the motion shall explain the purpose behind and effect of the motion before Student Senate for a period not to exceed 3 minutes. Then, they may answer questions related to the motion for a period not to exceed 2 minutes. C, only individuals with voting rights may ask questions regarding an unusual motion. D, after the unusual motion presentation, the Senate shall vote on the motion in question as usual. E, an unusual motion presentation is not considered debate, so no call for debate on the motion shall be made. F, an unusual motion presentation shall only be in order if no speaker is currently recognized before the Senate. G, motions to suspend the rules that change the order of the student Senate agenda shall always be considered an unusual motion. Section 2, all subsequent sections of Chapter 2 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association statutes shall be renumerated appropriately. And Section 3, this legislation will take effect upon passage by the Student Senate.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine.
Hi, I just want to know what you mean, like, by immediately clear, because some of us have, like, some people have a different knowledge of what, like, a motion may be. Like, for example, Brian will probably know, but other people might not.
I left that intentionally vague because, for example, you could have explained the motion you're making to the people around you, and to some people might have already heard about the whisperings of such a motion, but to the whole student body or to the speaker themselves, that purpose may not be clear, which is why it's explicitly either the speaker can call for it or 15 student senators selected and qualified. I chose that number because that's the same amount required to turn a hand vote into a roll call vote.
Senator Polanco.
I wanted to ask about the 15 student senators selected and qualified. Selected and qualified, do you mean they're part of SGA? And second, why the number 15? Maybe that's a little bit of a high number, especially taking into account, like Speaker Pro Tem said, that maybe we don't know the immediate clarification of the motion, or we don't know the basis of the motion.
I selected 15 because during a debate, when usually a resolution is approved by a hand vote, a senator can call for a roll call vote, and if 15 senators agree, then a roll call vote shall be held. I picked that number because that was the same number for roll call votes.
Senator Shirkey.
I just have a technical question about like how this would occur in practice. So I'm sitting here, someone makes a motion, I'm like, I don't know what that means, and so I just raise my placard and say unusual motion in the same manner that during a resolution vote, someone would raise their hand and say like roll call vote? Or?
Sure. Here's how it would go. Essentially, Senator A makes a motion. The speaker then considers it. If they believe it to be unusual, they can call for an unusual motion presentation themselves, or if not, they can simply discuss the motion. If a senator said, they can put their placard up and say, I call for an unusual motions presentation, the same way you would say, I call for a roll call vote. The speaker would then say, that takes 15 student senators, and then if 15 placards go up, the presentation is called for.
Senator Glanville.
So, in the sense of saving time, how does this, in the stance of calling an unusual motion, save any time as to where if, say, you just let whatever was happening happen and let it go through or fail as per Robert's rules? What sort of time or efforts does this negate or keep from these chambers?
If you understand the purpose of a motion, you know what it'll do, you know how it will affect the Senate as it currently stands, the agenda, the legislative process. If you don't know how to vote on that, and you're more inclined to vote against it if you don't know. So that's why I specifically chose 3 minutes for explanations, 2 minutes for questions, because that is enough time to come up here, say, here's what motion I'm doing now, here's why I'm doing it, answer questions. Say the thing that just happened before this, where the bill was discharged straight into final action. If the chair, if the speaker, the SAC chair, or the ops chair did not make that motion, and that was just a normal senator who made that motion, its purpose isn't immediately clear, so an unusual motion presentation could be called for. They would come up here and say, I moved that so that way, because we're not meeting next week, so that way they can get their funding for the event ASAP.
Did you have a follow-up, Senator Glanville?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can this not be chalked up to senators maybe taking on a little more time to themselves and just brushing up on Robert's rules instead of adding this to our governing documents?
This is explicitly stating a way to do that without having to call for suspending the rules to allow for debate. That requires a 2/3 majority, and it allows for a minimum of 5 positive speeches, 5 negative speeches, which is not necessary for every motion. And not all motions are going to be preemptive. Some of them are reactionary, happening something that has just happened on the floor. Or so it would be difficult to quickly run to all your senators and explain everything that's happening when you could make the motion and come up here and present the purpose behind it.
Senator Moltz.
Could you give me a motion that might be said in this chamber that would be called for unusual? I don't understand what kind of motion would be made. Because we follow Robert's Rules of Order, so all of our motions are listed out on the back of our placards and explained. So I'm just curious what motion would be made that would be considered unusual without being out of order, just in general following Robert's Rules.
For the most part, it would be things like an example at the last meeting of the previous term. This didn't end up happening, but it almost did, where due to an opinion on the allocation to cats covered, we wanted to quickly get that sorted. So a group of senators, myself included, planned on suspending the rules to move introduction of legislation before final action, because we wanted to get through the questioning debate period and then special order and possibly reject the allocation. This is unusual because it is drastically changing the order, and outside of those few people that we talked to, nobody knew what the purpose of that was for. So this would have clarified and allowed it. And also the thing that just happened, a normal senator making the motion to, I move to discharge the previous bill, Bill 31, into introduction of legislation, that is not immediately clear to anyone outside of the allocations chair. It's generally intended for those motions that are not immediately obvious what they do. Like a motion to allow for debate would be unusual because it's obviously allowing for debate. And a motion to suspend the rules and extend a speaker's time isn't unusual because that's readily apparent. But the reasoning behind a motion to suspend the rules and consider, say, Resolution 47 before this bill would have been unusual because the purpose is not immediately clear.
Did you have a follow-up, Senator Moltz? Yeah.
Yes. Regarding yours for moving a bill in the final action and debating that to get something changed, could you not have talked to the chair of the applications committee to move that into final action as they have the ability? So that you could do that without having to add something else into statutes or create another process? Wouldn't you just be able to use what's already available without putting more complexity behind our governing documents?
Well, yes, but this is assuming a world where Gavin wasn't here, and so nobody knew that this was going to be an issue.
Chair Lee.
I guess my question for this is, you're adding complexity, you're adding more
more stuff to make this more, a little bit more complex. But if I didn't understand a motion that was being made, couldn't I just ask the chair, like he explained earlier, when Gavin made his motion? Can I just ask what this means?
That's what the purpose of this is. If the motion is not immediately clear, you call for the presentation, they come, they explain the motion, and they answer questions about the motion.
Why should there be time spent on that when I can just ask a 30-second question and the person can explain it under 30 seconds and then be done with that?
Because it's not just what the actual effect is, as that is what the chair would be able to explain, but the reasoning behind it as well. You could explain you could essentially explain the mechanics behind what the thing would do, but the actual purpose behind why it was made may not be immediately obvious, as I stated in the whereas clauses.
Chair Lilly.
What is the difference between this and a point of information?
A point of information is, Brian, you can answer that.
Point of informations actually do not exist in Robert's Rules of Order. So,
They exist in our statutes, or bylaws, actually.
they do not exist in our bylaws. They would potentially exist in the standing rules, which is chapter 2 of the statutes. But
Okay. Then
if we want to get specific, we can.
question of privilege.
Questions of privilege have very specific meanings, of which technically asking a question is not one of them.
A point of information is a question of privilege.
It is.
That are in Robert's rules.
Is not. There's a request for information, which you can make, but they're different motions. Semantics aside, technically, you can ask a request for information. However, from my understanding, this would allow you to get slightly closer to debate-like, as well as predefining within our governing documents different processes that occur, which we're allowed to do to override or expand and extend upon Robert's rules, which we already do, such as with the previous question requiring it to have 5 turns of debate back and forth before it's in order, unlike in Robert's rules where it's always in order.
Okay, are there any further questions for the author? Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine.
Have you considered anything to prevent this being done over and over again in one Senate? Like somebody doesn't know what's going on and then keeps doing it 30 times.
It requires 15 student senators, selected and qualified, or the speaker to allow it. If 15 senators don't put their placards up, it's not called for, just like if only 14 senators call for roll call vote, no roll call vote is held. That is built in.
Senator Hanna.
Is the time we spent debating this going to equal a time save versus just asking the person motioning, leaning over and saying, "Are you doing this?" Is that gonna save us time?
It's a little hard to, if, say, I were sitting over here and you made a motion that I didn't know about, it would be a little hard for me to quickly ask you, hey, why'd you do this? Do this, let alone someone who is all the way on this side responding to a motion from someone all the way over there.
Senator Otto.
Okay. I grew up in 4-H and I'm very familiar with parliamentary rules. I've never heard of something like this. Wouldn't this just be more confusing to senators to have to go through this process?
I don't think so. The process would be, I call for an unusual motions presentation. If 15 senators put their hands up or the speaker wants one, then it will happen. The author of the motion would come here to the well. They would explain what the motion is, what it would do, and why they are making that motion. And then they may answer questions for 2 minutes. Afterwards, you will vote on the motion.
Chair Lee.
I guess I just have a theoretical scenario. If I have some bad actors, maybe a chair who doesn't like the specific senator, or a group of 15 senators who don't like the specific senator, could they call an unusual motion presentation every time someone tries to do something? Continuously? Yes.
Built in, it says, and the purpose of the motion is not immediately clear, which means I believe that the speaker could overrule that. Plus, the student senate as a whole could just be really cross at that person or those people, turn to them and be like, "Stop doing this, we beg of you."
Are there any, Senator Zacko?
So, the purpose of this is to, I'm not trying to be like, okay, the purpose of this is to ensure that we don't have long extensions of time in Senate to stay later. Would this not add the same time, restrictions, the same time additions?
No, under the current rules, if someone makes a motion and you don't understand the purpose of it, nor or the reason behind it, the only way to do that is to suspend the rules and allow for debate. That means that the author of the motion and every other person with debate rights can come up here and talk for up to 5 minutes about the motion being made, and they would do that. There would have a theoretical maximum of 10 times. That would be up to 30 minutes of debate on one single motion, whereas this would allow for a simple 5 minutes. The author to come up, explain for 3 minutes, answer questions for 2, and go down. If the Senate still has questions or the motion is still controversial or people want to debate, you can still call for debate on that motion if the Senate believes that. It does require a 2/3 majority because that's what it says in Robert's Rules of Orders. This would say that any time that you make a motion that is peculiar, unusual, not immediately obvious, the only way to actually talk about that if it's not debatable is to suspend the rules and allow for debate. This gives an alternate path that will drastically save time. Plus, you do not need to make that motion to suspend the rules and allow for debate.
Are there any further questions?
Yes, Senator George.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I think my question is gonna come after all this deliberation. My question is different from what we are deliberating on right now.
Can you repeat the question, Senator George?
I said my question is gonna come after all deliberations. My question is totally different from what we are deliberating on right now.
That's fine. Go ahead and state your question.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we will go to consider Bill 33. Is there a motion to consider? Caucus Leader Black.
I move to consider Bill 33.
Second.
Okay, the author will please come forward.
They're double-sided.
Here we go. Bill 242533, Amendment to the KSU statutes regarding speaking rights and first open period. Authors Max Black, sponsors Andrew Lee. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to review its governing documents so they reflect how we operate. Whereas the first open period of Student Senate meetings provides an opportunity for individuals outside of KSU SGA to address the Student Senate. Whereas individuals who have speaking privileges within Student Senate meetings are not allowed to speak within the first open period outside of questioning time. Whereas presidents of student organizations have speaking privileges during Student Senate meetings and thus are not allowed to speak during the first open period of a Student Senate meeting despite not being members of a branch of KSU SGA, nor typically being active participants in Student Senate. Whereas during previous Student Senate meetings, the rules have been suspended to allow student organization presidents to speak during the first open period. Whereas it is contradictory to the purpose of first open period to not allow student organization presidents to speak, be it enacted that Section 2, Article 103 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association statutes shall be amended to read as follows. Open periods. Each regular meeting of the Student Senate shall begin with an open period during which any individual without speaking privileges, as well as any president of a student organization with speaking privileges may address Student Senate. Each individual shall be allowed 10 minutes unless extended by a majority vote. Speaking time may be extended for a maximum of 2 minutes and shall not be extended more than once. After an open period speaker has concluded their presentation, those with speaking privileges may ask questions for a period lasting no more than 4 minutes unless extended by a majority vote. Questioning time may be extended for a maximum of 4 minutes and shall not be extended more than once. Debate with the speaker will not be allowed. The Speaker of the Student Senate will recognize any guest who indicates a desire to speak. Each regular Student Senate meeting shall end with an open period during which any individual with speaking privileges may address Student Senate on any issue. Each speaker shall be allowed 5 minutes. After an open period speaker has concluded their presentation, those with speaking privileges may ask questions for a period lasting no more than 3 minutes. This legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature by the student body president. So just kind of a quick explanation.
You can't explain, you just
Oh.
have to read during introduction.
My bad.
Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Shirky.
I have a correction followed by a question. The correction is on line 1, statutes to statutes. And the question is, in the event that a member of the Student Senate happens to hold, concurrent to their office in SGA, the president's position of a registered student organization, would they be allowed to speak during open period?
No,
Document.
because I did think about that, but that is actually misreading it per se, because it is only allowing the presidents of student organizations with speaking privileges, not anybody else who has speaking privileges. If they hold those offices, it's basically saying that presidents are allowed to speak even though they have speaking privileges. Because of their president position, other positions would not be allowed to.
So, point of information then. As a person who is a president of a student organization and as a member of SGA, to the parliamentarian, do I have speaking privileges?
Yes.
And am I a president of a student organization?
I'll believe that you are.
So then, am I a president of a student organization with speaking privileges?
That would be correct.
Okay, we will fix these in committee.
Senator Griffin.
I have a correction, two corrections actually. First one is line 23, there should be an and there, that is the second to last whereas clause. And second of all, on section 2 should just read, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate. This is a change to the Student Senate standing rules. The opinion of the student body president is not required.
Okay. I do plan on fixing these things.
Senator Shirky.
I do actually have a substantive question. So why do we need this? Why can't we just do what we did like last time, where we just suspend the rules? And I will admit, because this happened last time, the motion to suspend the rules might not have been the best worded motion to suspend the rules, but why can't, in theory, I move to suspend the rules and allow that person there to speak during open period despite possessing their speaking privileges? Why can't we do that every time?
Well, why, thank you for asking. The reason that we amend our governing docs, within my opinion, is that they continue to reflect how we are operating, or we want to change how we are currently operating. So the first open period is a time where any member of the student body can come and address the Student Senate with any issues they may see around campus. They may want to talk about what great thing their organization is doing. And student orgs are a great way for us to reach out to students and to hear their input. But if we're not allowing them to speak during the first open period, then we are kind of, I guess, being contradictory towards the purpose of that, because we're not providing an outlet for those students to speak. They do have speaking rights within Senate. And I just think that if we are going to operate this way, then we should do it in our bylaws should reflect that.
Follow up.
Yeah, granted.
So I will take the statement in the whereas clauses where presidents of student organizations are not typically active participants in the Senate. I'll take you at your word for that. With that in mind, why don't we just take away the speaking privileges of presidents from student organizations? If they never actually use it, except in some cases where, for example, board presidents might really, really oppose, say, a statutory change that would harm their organization, in which case, again, a senator would move to speak and then they would yield their rights to that person. If we really want to have presidents of student orgs in first open period, why not just take away their speaking rights and treat them like everyone else?
I mean, that would, in theory, solve this issue. However, I believe that there are lots of reasons behind why we gave presidents we gave them speaking rights in the first place, because we want them to be able to have a say in things that are going on. And I personally believe that just because we're senators doesn't mean our only voices are the ones that matter.
Point of information.
Senator Hanna, yeah.
Have we debated about removing speaking rights to student orgs previously?
There was a bill last term, but it failed. So yeah. Senator Griffith.
Is there, this is, I guess, more of a question of, for the speaker, question of privilege. Is there anything stopping the president of a student org from giving a second opinion speech?
There's not. And in fact, they're entitled to it since they have speaking rights. Yeah.
Could the president of a student organization who wishes to come and present before the student senate not just wait for second open period to give their...
They in theory very well could. However, right now it is 8:48 and we have another piece of legislation after this. I think we should not require student orgs to come in at 10 o'clock at night, which is not set at 10 o'clock at night. It could be any time and sit through our Senate meetings. So I think that having them the ability to come in at the beginning only makes it easier for them and makes us more transparent as an organization. I would like to note that with a lot of the issues that you guys are bringing up, I do have plans on fixing those, and this is an amendment to our governing docs, so it requires a 2/3 vote. So if you have issues with that, please talk to me and come to the committee meeting, because I think that I want this to pass, I guess.
Point of information, this is an amendment to our statutes that requires a simple majority.
Cool.
Parliamentarian Blood, did you have a question?
My main question is, I know you talked a little bit about your background and reasoning why, but I wanted to maybe know a little bit more explicitly why you thought that we should give presidents of student boards more speaking privileges than anyone else in the student body, when presidents of student boards only have to be elected by potentially only 5 students on campus, and can even be elected by discriminatory areas, such as in the case of fraternities and sororities, they can only be elected by men or women, respectively, or in the case of religious organizations, groups that only align with one specific religious identity.
Yeah. I think that is a very good question and brings up some concerns. I guess, in my personal opinion, I believe that we can be transparent as an organization, and I think that speaking we are student senators, we are students, we are no more special than everybody else that walks on campus, and I think their concerns are just as valid as ours. And I don't really have concerns of giving extra speaking privileges. I think anybody should be able to speak up about whatever they want. That's why we're here, because we want to speak up about what's going on in the university. I recognize that we are giving extra speaking rights to these people, but we also have speaking rights as senators that they don't have. And I think that it is, if we're going to have a first open period for people who are outside of the student senate to come and speak, then we should not limit people who are do not hold a seat within, do not hold voting rights from speaking during that period.
Chair Lilly.
Point of information, we do not have any speaking privileges that student board presidents do not have.
Okay. Senator Griffith.
This is a point of information specifically to the parliamentarian. Under the current wording of this, the student body president would be considered the president of a student organization with speaking privileges. So there's nothing to stop that if this passed, Paige could come up and give a first open period speech. Is that correct?
I'm going to decline to answer.
Okay. Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Okay, cool. If you have concerns, come talk to me after.
With that, we'll go into Resolution 47, recommendation to encourage Kansas State University to form the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Shirkey.
Move to consider Resolution 47.
Second.
Okay, if the author will please come forward.
I almost dropped everything. I know it's getting late. Let's try to stay awake. I promise you that this bill's actually pretty good. It took a month and a half to write, so it should be decent. Okay. Resolution 242547, recommendation to encourage Kansas State University to form the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement Committee. Authors Mirta Chavez, Benjamin Carton, and LaBarbara James Wigfall. Sponsors Max Black, Ibrahim Chiefchi, Carissa Jonak, Brandon Kermer, Andrew Lee, Joseph Lilly, Levi Moltz, and Mandolin Otto. Whereas, in 1967, then University President James McCain extended an invitation to civil rights activist and Nobel Peace Prize recipient Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to participate in the all-university convocation lecture series the following year. Whereas the invitation from McCain sparked controversy within the university and the state of Kansas, whereas this did not discourage McCain from inviting Dr. King to Kansas State University, nor did this stop Dr. King from accepting the invitation. On January 19th, 1968, Dr. King arrived to KSU and spoke to a crowd of 7,000 students, staff, faculty, and community members in Ahern Fieldhouse about civil rights, social activism, and race relations. Whereas on April 4th, 1968, just 3 months after Dr. King's speech at KSU, he was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, making KSU the last university he spoke at. Whereas nearly 40 years after Dr. King visited KSU, plans were put together in early 2006 for the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement to commemorate the legacy of Dr. King and his devoted wife, Coretta Scott King. The gardens were planned and designed by the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students. After gathering information about Dr. King's life and legacy, and the location of the gardens were to be on the southeast corner of Ahern. Whereas the first phase of the gardens included the installation of a bust of King, which was implemented on January 19th, 2007. Whereas unfortunately, the rest of the plans for the gardens were unexpectedly met with pushback from KSU administration and faced financing issues, leading to the gardens never being finished. Whereas after almost 2 decades since the gardens were introduced, this project remains incomplete, with the area around the bust left to its overgrowth. Whereas in the 2010s, the King Foundation and family was sorting through Dr. King's belongings and discovered that the suit Dr. King was wearing at the time of his assassination was the same suit he had worn to KSU. Whereas within that same suit pocket, they found the notes from his KSU speech. Whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Observance Week Committee has stated, after 56 years since King's historic visit, we have a signature opportunity to commemorate this great and admirable figure and his devoted wife. Whereas this new discovery of the speech notes have reignited encouragement, hope, and motivation, sparking a renewed desire to complete this garden. This project would help KSU stand out amongst all other universities in the nation and show that with the collaboration of students, faculty, staff, and administration, that KSU can come together to till the soil, plant the seed, and cultivate the future of the university's commitment to the promotion of equality, justice, inclusion, and diversity, while also commemorating the legacy of Dr. King and Coretta Scott King. And whereas the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement can also be incorporated into both University President Dr. Richard H. Linton's vision for KSU, that this institution will set the standard for innovation, learning, creativity, discovery, and engagement that positively impacts Kansans and the world, and the 2025 Campus Master Plan. Be it resolved, Section 1. The Kansas State Student Governing Association strongly recommends that Kansas State University forms a committee as follows. Section A, or Part A, the committee will be named the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement Committee. B, SGA strongly recommends that this committee be organized under the direction of the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Dr. Raina Johnson, Assistant Vice President of Student Belonging and Inclusion, and Senior Executive Director of Project Impact, Mirta Chavez, Professor in Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning Department and National Organization of Minority Architecture Students Advisor, LaBarbara James Wigfall, with the students of the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students, the National Association of Minority Landscape Architects, and the Black Student Union as members. C, under this proposed committee, they shall review and revise the original plans and location of the gardens to, 1, meet the same meaning and purpose of the project as it was first presented, 2, have this project be in compliance with the current KSU policies, 3, work to incorporate the project in the 2025 KSU Campus Master Plan, and 4, start the process to implement the gardens. D, this committee shall partner with the Kansas State University Foundation to oversee all donor contributions and other financial initiatives for the implementation of these gardens. E, upon the implementation of the Coretta Scott King Gardens of Engagement, 1, the upkeep of the garden shall be maintained by Landscape Services. 2, it shall be the responsibility of KSKGE committee to work with LS and their guidelines in order to implement new or different vegetation within the gardens. 3, it shall be the responsibility of the KSKGE committee for implementing or removing such vegetation. 4, if in the event of the vegetation dying, it is the responsibility of the KSKGE committee to coordinate with LS in order to plant new vegetation. And 5, all purchases for new vegetation within the garden shall be financed out of the KSKGE committee, and the cost of new or different vegetation shall never be paid for by LS unless disruption of the area by said entity. Section 2. Upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Vice President of NOMAS, Reed LePage, President of NOMAS, Evian Ruff, Co-founder of NAMLA, Cale Mueller, Vice President of the Black Student Union, Miles Sidgers, President of the Black Student Union, Cameron Thompson, Co-chairs of the Justice, Equity, and Diversity, Access, Inclusion, and Identity Committee, Garciela Bruman and Gwen Sibley, Co-chairs of the University Planning Committee, Cassie Jones and Kimberly Kramer, President-elect of the Kansas State University Faculty Senate, Dr. Sarah Luley, President of the Kansas State University Faculty Senate, Dr. Teresa Duthit, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Observance Week Committee, Professor of Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning and Advisor for the NOMAS, LaBarbara James Wigfall, Professor and Department Head of Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning, Dr. Houston Gibson, Associate Dean of the College of Architecture, Planning and Design, Dr. Katie Kingery Page, Dean of the College of Architecture, Planning and Design, Michael McClure, Director of Facility Services, Linda Craghead, Director of Space Management, Heather Mills, Associate Vice President for Facilities, Casey Lauer, Program Coordinator, lost my spot. Program Coordinator for Multicultural Student Life, Dr. Brandon Clark, Director of Multicultural Student Life, Kevin Santos Flores, Assistant Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Corey Williamson, Assistant Vice President for Student Belonging and Inclusion, Dr. Mirta Chavez, Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Dr. Raina Johnson, Senior Project Manager, Rosanna Carvalho, Program Project Administrator, Gretchen Johnson, Assistant Vice President of Planning, Design, and Construction, Lisa Johnson, Vice President of Administration and Finance, Dr. Ethan Erickson, Vice President of Academic Success and Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and Executive Vice President, Dr. Jesse Perez Mendez, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Nice job. Do we have any questions or corrections?
I have a few corrections myself for this. Online, now I gotta find this. Instead of co-founder of NAMLA, I believe on line 113, add President of NAMLA, Cale Mueller, Vice President of NAMLA, Addie Ramirez, Secretary of NAMLA, David Rosero. I do not know how to pronounce his last name, but I also sent information on this later. And then I would like to add one sponsor, Alondra Alvarez.
Senator Zatko.
Can we add an Oxford comma on line 23? Thank you.
Senator Shirky.
I'd like to sponsor this legislation.
We'll send out the sponsorship form again. Senator Griffith.
I admit I might have missed it in the sea of wonderful names out there, but would you oppose sending a copy of this resolution to the King estate?
To who, what?
The Dr. King's estate, if that would be possible.
Great question. Unfortunately, it's unknown right now. Yeah. With talking with the other authors in this, it's a little difficult right now to reach out to them. Also with something of this nature, I think if once this committee is formed, hopefully passed by Student Senate, Faculty Senate, the 3 chairs will actually reach out to them personally.
Speaker Pro Tem Hesselstein.
Yeah, I just was curious why we're sending it to so many people. I think the presidents of these organizations are great, but I think it kind of gets like lost in the bushes when we send it to so many people. So I think that I just was curious why we were sending it to this many people.
So, sorry, I'm making more work for you. I apologize on that front. Because this is such an important thing that we could have here at K-State, I want as many people as we can aware of what's going on, and especially with the student organizational president, vice president, and secretaries who will be a part of this, so they can also have this bill instead of just trying to send them constant emails, since I know as students we are also all bombarded by emails.
Senator Griffith.
During the whereas clauses, you mentioned that opposition to the initial garden was met with pushback from the university. Do you have any idea why that was?
No. Unfortunately, I do not.
Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we will go into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will go into reference.
Oh, wait, there was a person.
Who is it? Oh, Senator Uphouse.
Okay, I will make this really quick. The Union Program Council and SGA have teamed up to do a little bit of homecoming stuff together. So tomorrow they are walking in the parade, and as of right now, they have no one from SGA helping as far as I'm aware. So if anyone would like to volunteer to walk in the parade, that would be great. They're meeting at Dillard's at 4:30, I believe, and if you would like to wear purple, that would be great. That's all I've got.
Okay, and there, I will say on that front, there is in our GroupMe a link to join a homecoming GroupMe. So I think there are a couple people that have signed up to walk in the parade. So if you want to do that, please join that so we can have some communication there. Are there any further second openings? Chair Lilly.
All right, I forgot to say this last time, my bad. The legislation workshop is going to be the Wednesday after next at 7 p.m. I might just email everyone about that on the listserv. But if you're interested in going, let me know because I might need a bigger room.
Okay, are there any further questions? Or are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, are there any further second open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will go into reference of legislation. Bill, let's see, Bill 32 and 33 will go to the Senate Operations Committee, and Resolution 47 will go to the Strategic Oversight Committee. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Alrighty. Shout out to Carson having a sippy cup. Shout out to What's My Major. Shout out to Forgetting Your Major happens to the best of us. Shout out to Not Know Your Major. Me too, bro. Shout out to Joseph calling people to the principal's office. Shout out my mentee. Shout out Emily and Carly. Y'all are doing great. Shout out yet again to Captain Lilly, doing his best to keep the Senate full and purging the ranks of those not fully loyal to the cause. You'll be a major in no time, sir. You're dismissed. Shout out Alondra, you're my hero. Shout out being short and having to move the mic. Shout out watching football during caucus time. Shout out parents buying our groceries. Shout out student workers dealing with mini Karens. Shout out Andrew Lee, you're slaying with that initiative king. Shout out to the Wildcat Chamber. I'm not freezing tonight. Actually, I did ask, we had a UGB meeting on Friday, and I asked if it would be possible to not be freezing in here, so, you know. Shout out to No Senate on Halloween. Hashtag cancel Senate more often. Shout out Levi's earrings. Shout out to the agenda being double-sided. Sorry, that was me. For any of you who had to deal with that. Shout out not having to be here next week. Shout out having to be here on homecoming week, but not Halloween. Shout out to Max for speaking facts about us not being special as senators. Shout out to yapping. Shout out to question periods taking forever tonight. Shout out Martin Luther King. Shout out to Benji for managing to say all of the recipients or resolutions recipient in one breath. Shout out to Benji. That legislation was long, but you ate. Good job. And hey, Ryan, what's up, house? I don't know what's up with you. That's it.
Okay, with that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it with our second roll call.
Okay, sorry. Alvarez. Here. Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Bolton.
Here.
Rugen. Byers.
Here.
Casement.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Ediger.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
George. Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Hannah.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister. Islam. Jacobson Madeline.
Here.
Jacobson Michael. John Allen. Here. Sorry. Carton.
Yeah.
Keen.
Here.
Kramer.
Here.
Kramer.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilly.
Here.
McCulloch. Maltz.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Peterson. Polanco.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Shahasavari.
Here.
Shirky.
Here.
Stewart. Sushi. Uphouse.
Here.
And Sacco.
Here.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Caucus Leader Black.
I move
Second.
I move to adjourn until November 7th, 6th.
What time?
At 7 p.m. in Wildcat Chamber.
It's the
Second.
It's the seventh week. No.
Okay. It is the 7th. Okay, excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
Great, we stand adjourned.
You went sent to